I was sitting in my office when my phone buzzed with a message I never thought I would see. Mom's name lit up the screen after 7 years of silence. The text was short. "We want to meet Emma. She is our granddaughter." "We have missed too much already." I stared at those words, my throat tight. Emma, my 5-year-old daughter who they never asked about when she almost did not make it into this world. The same child they never sent a birthday card to, never called to hear her voice. My mind flashed back to that hospital corridor, to my hands shaking as I begged them for help, to my wife's life hanging by a thread. And I remembered what they said. I stared at that message for a long time, and for the first time in years, I felt something shift inside me. Before I take you through what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe if you have not already. Trust me, you will want to see how this family drama unfolds, and what I finally told them after all these years of silence. Now let me take you back to where it all started. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, I always knew I was different from my brother Garrett. Not in the way kids are naturally different, but in the way my parents saw us. Dad worked as an accountant for a mid-sized firm downtown, and Mom taught 3rd grade at the local elementary school. We were comfortable middle class, the kind of family that took one vacation a year and had dinner together most nights. Garrett was 3 years older than me, and from the moment I could understand what favoritism meant, I saw it everywhere. When he brought home a C in algebra, Mom would say he was just more creative, that traditional schooling did not capture his brilliance. When I brought home straight A's, Dad would glance at my report card and nod before asking Garrett about his day. It was not cruel exactly. It was just the way things were. Garrett was the golden child, the one with potential, the one who would do something extraordinary. I was just Berkeley, the steady one, the one who would figure it out on his own. The pattern continued through high school. I earned a full-ride scholarship to Oregon State University for computer science. The day I got the acceptance letter, I ran downstairs to tell my parents. Mom hugged me and said she was proud, but before I could even finish explaining the scholarship details, Dad interrupted. "That is wonderful, son. Hey, speaking of money, Garrett needs a new car for his job search. His transmission just went out." Just like that, my achievement became background noise to my brother's needs. Garrett had dropped out of community college after a year and a half. He said traditional education was stifling his entrepreneurial spirit. My parents nodded along, supportive understanding. "He will find his path," Mom would say, with complete confidence. And they meant it. They believed in him so deeply, so completely, that facts did not seem to matter. I graduated college at 22, moved into a small studio apartment, and started my first job as a junior developer at a tech startup. I was excited, nervous, ready to build my life. Meanwhile, Garrett at 25 was still living in his childhood bedroom, floating between part-time jobs and big ideas. Then came his first business venture. Garrett wanted to open an organic coffee shop in the trendy part of downtown Portland. He had it all planned out, he said. Locally sourced beans, sustainable practices, a community hub for artists and freelancers. It sounded nice, sure, but the market was already saturated. I tried to mention this once at Sunday dinner, and Dad cut me off. "Berkeley, your brother has vision. This is not about numbers, it is about passion." They gave him $50,000. No interest, no repayment plan, just handed it over because they believed in him. Around the same time, I needed a new laptop for work. My old one was dying, crashing during presentations, losing files. A decent setup would cost me around $5,000, and I had been saving, but I was not quite there yet. I asked Dad if I could borrow the money, promising to pay him back within 6 months. He looked at me like I had asked for a kidney. "Berkeley, you have a job now. You are an adult. You can handle this yourself. We just helped your brother with his business." "You understand, right?" I said. I understood. I put it on a credit card with 18% interest and paid it off in 9 months. Garrett's coffee shop lasted 8 months. He could not compete with the established chains, could not manage inventory properly, could not keep staff because he kept changing his mind about everything. When it closed, I thought maybe, finally, there would be some accountability. Instead, Mom hugged him at dinner and said, "You tried, honey. That is what matters. You will get it right next time." Next time. There was always going to be a next time for Garrett, and my parents would always be there to fund it. I met Sarah when I was 26. I had gone to visit a friend at the hospital after he had broken his leg in a hiking accident, and she was his nurse. She had this way of making everyone feel at ease, cracking jokes while checking vitals, remembering small details about her patients. We started talking in the cafeteria, and I found out she had grown up in a small town in Washington, put herself through nursing school, and loved old science fiction movies. We went on our first date 3 days later to a used bookstore, and I knew pretty quickly that she was different. She saw me, not as the spare son, not as the responsible one, just as Berkeley, just as myself. We dated for a year before I proposed. Nothing fancy, just the two of us at the coast watching the sunset over Cannon Beach. She said yes before I even finished asking. Our wedding was small, maybe 40 people held in a little garden venue outside the city. My parents came dressed nicely, smiling in photos. But I noticed the way Mom kept mentioning that it was such a shame Garrett had not found someone yet, that he was so focused on his career ambitions. His career ambitions. He was unemployed at the time, living at home working on business plan number 2. But sure, ambitions. Sarah and I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment we could barely afford. We were happy, though. We cooked dinner together, watched movies on our ancient couch, talked about the future. We wanted kids eventually, a little house with a yard, the kind of life that felt simple and full at the same time. I got promoted to senior developer, and Sarah picked up extra shifts. We were saving, slowly building something that was ours. And for the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. But while my life was moving forward, Garrett was on round 2 of his entrepreneurial journey. This time, he wanted to create a local food delivery app. Never mind that Uber Eats and DoorDash already dominated the market. Never mind that he had no experience in app development, logistics, or restaurant partnerships. He had passion and a PowerPoint presentation. That was enough for my parents. They gave him $75,000 this time. $75,000. I found out when Mom mentioned it casually over the phone, like she was talking about buying groceries. We are so excited for Garrett. This could really be the one, Berkeley. You work in tech, maybe you could give him some advice. I did try to give him advice. I explained market saturation, user acquisition costs, the importance of a minimum viable product. Garrett listened with this condescending smile, like I was a child who did not understand his genius. You are thinking too small, little brother. You have got to think bigger. Bigger. Right. His app launched 6 months later with a clunky interface and maybe 12 restaurant partners. It folded within a year, and once again my parents absorbed the loss like it was nothing. The market was not ready, Garrett explained at Christmas dinner. Dad nodded sympathetically. Sometimes you are just ahead of your time, son. 6 months after that, Garrett had a new idea. Vintage clothing online. He would curate rare finds, create a brand around sustainable fashion, tap into the growing eco-conscious market. My parents gave him $40,000 more. I stopped asking questions. I stopped expecting anything different. By my count, they had given Garrett over $165,000 across 3 failed businesses. Not 1 cent had been repaid. Not one business had lasted more than a year, and every single time, they had an excuse ready. The economy. Bad timing. Poor partners. Never Garrett's choices. Never his lack of planning or follow-through. Meanwhile, Sarah and I found out we were pregnant. We were thrilled, scared, excited in that way. First-time parents are. We started planning, reading every baby book we could find. Setting up a tiny nursery in the corner of our bedroom. Sarah glowed through the first 2 trimesters. Everything was perfect. And then in her 7th month, everything fell apart. She started having headaches. Then, her blood pressure spiked. The doctor diagnosed severe preeclampsia and told us we needed to monitor her closely. A week later, she collapsed at work. I got the call while I was in a meeting. Mr. Foster, your wife is in the ER. You need to come now. I have never driven faster in my life. When I got there, they told me Sarah's condition had deteriorated rapidly. Her organs were starting to fail. The baby was in distress. They needed to do an emergency cesarean section, and they needed to do it within the next few hours or we could lose both of them. Both of them. Those words did not feel real. The doctor explained the costs. Because of complications, our insurance would not cover everything. The out-of-pocket expenses would be around $38,000. I had $12,000 in savings. I needed $26,000 more, and I needed it immediately. I called my dad from the hospital hallway. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. I explained everything. Sarah's condition, the baby, the surgery, the money. I tried to keep my voice steady, but I was crying by the end. Dad, please. I do not know what else to do. I will pay you back. I will pay you back with interest. I just need help right now. Please. There was a pause, a long pause. Then he said, Berkeley, you know, Garrett just launched his new project. We have already put a lot into that. We do not have that kind of money lying around. I could not believe what I was hearing. Dad, this is not about a business. This is about Sarah and our baby. They could die. Do you understand that? They could die. Another pause. Then, have you tried applying for a loan? Medical financing. There are options, son. Your mother and I cannot help right now. Garrett's project is at a critical phase, and we promised him we would see it through. I am sorry, but you are going to have to figure this out on your own. I just remember sitting there, staring at the wall, feeling something inside me crack wide open. My wife was dying. My child was dying. And my parents chose my brother's vintage clothing store over their lives. I called my mom next, hoping for something different. She was gentler, but said the same thing. We wish we could help, sweetheart, but we just do not have it right now. You will find a way. You always do. That last part felt like a knife. You always do. Because I had to. Because I had never been given another choice. I spent the next 3 hours calling every lending service I could find. I maxed out both my credit cards. I took out a personal loan with an insane interest rate. I borrowed from my 401k. I cobbled together $45,000 when I included what I already had enough to cover the surgery and a small cushion for aftercare. By the time I signed the last form, I was drowning in debt, but Sarah and our daughter were going to live. That was all that mattered. Emma was born weighing 5 pounds and 3 ounces. She was tiny, fragile, perfect. They kept her in the NICU for 2 weeks while Sarah recovered. I would stand there at night watching our daughter through the glass, feeling this overwhelming love and this crushing weight at the same time. We brought Emma home 3 weeks later. Sarah was weak, still healing, and I was working every hour I could get. I picked up freelance projects on nights and weekends. I slept maybe 4 hours a night for the next 3 years. We cut every expense we could think of. No new clothes. No dinners out. No vacations. Every spare dollar went to paying down the debt. My parents called twice during Emma's first 3 years. Both times they talked about Garrett, his new girlfriend, his latest idea. They asked about Emma once politely, like you would ask about a stranger's pet. How is the baby? Fine, I said. Just fine. And then the calls stopped altogether. They stopped pretending to care. And honestly, it was almost easier that way. 5 years passed. Emma grew into this bright, curious kid who loved dinosaurs and drawing and asking a million questions about everything. Sarah went back to work part-time, and I finally got promoted to lead developer with a salary that let us breathe a little. We paid off the last of the debt on Emma's 4th birthday. I remember sitting at the kitchen table that night after she had gone to bed, looking at the zero balance on my screen and just crying. Sarah held my hand and said, "We did it. We survived." And we had. Without my parents, without Garrett, we had built this life ourselves, and it was good. It was really good. Then I got that text message. 7 years of silence, and suddenly they wanted back in. I did not respond right away. I needed time to think, to process, to figure out what I actually wanted. Sarah said it was my decision, that she would support whatever I chose. But do not do anything you will regret later, she added. Whatever you decide, make sure it is for you, not for them. I appreciated that. She always knew exactly what I needed to hear. 3 days later, my mom called. I let it ring twice before answering. "Berkeley, honey, did you get my message?" Her voice sounded older, tired in a way I had not noticed before. "I got it," I said. "I have been thinking about it." She launched into this explanation about how they had been reflecting, how they missed me, how they wanted to be part of Emma's life. "She is our granddaughter. We have already missed so much. Please do not keep her from us." That word, Keep. Like I was the one who had built this wall. Mom, where were you 7 years ago? I asked. My voice was calm, steady. I had practiced this. Where were you when Emma was born? When Sarah almost died? When I called you begging for help, she went quiet. I could hear her breathing on the other end. We were going through a difficult time financially, she finally said. We had already committed to helping your brother. I almost laughed. A difficult time. You gave Garrett $165,000 for businesses that all failed, but you could not give me $38,000 to save my wife and daughter. It was not that simple, she protested. Garrett needed support. He was going through a lot. We thought you would manage. You always managed. There it was again. You always managed. The expectation that I would figure it out, that I did not need them because I was responsible, capable Berkeley. I managed by going into debt that took me 3 years to pay off, I said. I managed by working 18-hour days and barely seeing my newborn daughter. I managed by doing it all without you. Mom started crying. I know we made mistakes. I know we should have been there. But we want to make it right now. Please, Berkeley, let us see Emma. Let us be grandparents. I took a breath. I will meet with you and Dad. Just the three of us. But Emma stays home until I decide if this is something I want for her. She agreed immediately, desperately. We set a time for the following Saturday at a coffee shop downtown. When Saturday came, I drove there alone. Sarah offered to come, but I needed to do this myself. I got there early and ordered a black coffee. I did not drink. My parents arrived 10 minutes later. They looked older,